I think to fully understand what led me to making the choice of adoption, you'd kind of have to go back a bit further into my life. At a young age, I had really struggled with my mental health right off the get-go. Around the age of 12, I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, OCD, and I was not doing very well in my life. I slowly kind of spiraled downward, especially getting into high school. And in high school, my parents actually ended up pulling me out of school in grade 10. I did a few stays in the psychiatric ward around that time to just try and help me get through some of this stuff. And I was very overwhelmed by the world. At some point in high school, I actually ended up finding my way into drugs. I had started by smoking marijuana and, hanging out with those kids. And at some point, I ended up falling into drug addiction, as well as struggling with alcohol, and just kind of was going off the rails a bit. And at some point throughout all of that, I believe it was around the age of 19, I ended up meeting a man, and, falling hard for him. And we definitely were not living a healthy lifestyle. We were involved quite deeply into a lot of criminal activities, I guess you could say. And at some point, I actually ended up, at the age of 20, I ended up getting pregnant with my oldest daughter. And around that time too, my relationship with this man ended up becoming very unhealthy, toxic and abusive, both mentally and physically. And my parents had stepped in and around that point, and I ended up moving back in with them, with my daughter. As anyone who's been in an abusive relationship knows, it's not something you just walk away from clean. And I found myself being kind of dragged back into it quite a bit and having a hard time getting away from it. I did end up getting sober while I was pregnant with my oldest. Though I was sober, I still very much was struggling with my mental health. And obviously, I'm a young mom. I'm trying to navigate my way through life. Financially, I was living with my parents, and I wasn't really going anywhere in my life. And at some point, I ended up getting pregnant then with Eve as well. And I still, like I said, I was struggling mentally, physically, financially, and this thought of having another baby where I'm still just getting by with my first daughter just was so overwhelming. And even my parents too, we were trying to figure out the best way to ensure that they both had the best life possible. And at one point I finally came to my parents and I said, well, how about we go with adoption? Not to say that I didn't love the baby I was pregnant with. I very much did. I looked at it like this. I either have two kids and I'm constantly just getting by. I'm this single mom stuck on welfare trying to raise two kids, or I place this baby in the loving arms of another family and I work my hardest to raise my oldest daughter and give them both the best chance at life possible. And where I was at, there was just no way for me to take care of two children. And I received a lot of backlash from that. And you know what my parents do? They received a lot of backlash and judgment and, oh, how can you give a baby away? You must not love them, which, no, that's not true. It's because of how much I loved both my oldest daughter and the baby I was pregnant with, that I knew that I wasn't going to be able to give them that life and that this was the best for them. And ultimately, you know what? It was hard. It wasn't an easy journey. I definitely had ups and downs, and it was a lot of, especially while pregnant and even after pregnancy, working through a lot of emotions and trying to sort out life. And I won't lie, even after Eve was born, I ended up relapsing quite a bit back into alcohol and whatnot too. And it was just trying to navigate that life. I wasn't living a healthy life, and I wasn't ready. Wasn't even ready. It was just not able to give that to them. And so ultimately it led me to adoption. And I had a public health nurse that was working with me reach out to me that she had known of this adoption agency. And that's kind of when we started that process. We started looking at families. I spent a lot of time praying about it too, like, God, what is the right path for me in all of this? There's so many fears when you're faced with, well, just even finding out you're pregnant, the fear alone of finding out you're pregnant, especially when you're not in a stable lifestyle and a healthy relationship of like how to go about all of this. So yeah, there was a lot of stepping stones to get to where I was. Ultimately, looking back at it, it wasn't an easy decision. Even after giving birth to Eve, like I said, I had my struggles and I had my moments, but having such an incredible family adopt my little girl meant so much to me. It definitely made it a lot easier. And yeah, so that's what led to my decision for adoption. And I don't regret it at all. I'm so happy that my daughter has such an incredible life and such incredible people raising her and loving her so much. And her mom and her dad are honestly the best. So yeah, that's what led to the adoption.
So my husband and I have 2 other kids. And after having our second, even before that, we had already had adoption on our heart. Just felt like something that we were called to. We had been in some scenarios where we had seen kids that just really needed a home, that they needed a loving and safe place. And so I think the Lord just placed that on our heart, that adoption was to be part of our story. So pretty quickly after we had our second, we started looking into adoption agencies, and we found Abide Adoption. And it was about a year-long process of, I think, about 6 months of going through all the checks and seminar and writing up our profile and making all of our picture books. And so that took us about 6 months, and then I think we were on the list for about another 6 to 8 months. And then we got a phone call that we had been chosen by a family and that she was 5 months pregnant with a little girl. And so a couple of weeks later, I think, we were able to go and meet Sadie and her parents. And it was such an interesting meeting. It was just easy and enjoyable and interesting seeing how many similarities that our families had. And it just felt really meant to be. And, there was tears at the end of it from all of us, just feeling like just the confirmation that this was the right situation. And so yeah, we were just really thankful for our journey. It really just flowed and always felt like this is what we're supposed to do. And I think that we often, in the challenging times, we look back on that and just thank the Lord for his goodness and just affirming it so well, because we know that we can do hard things even though it's challenging. And yeah, we're just grateful for his provision in it all, and how our story has unfolded.
My parents were probably one of my largest supports in that. I know there was a lot of frustration with me at the time for getting pregnant a second time, again, after having my oldest daughter. So being able to have my parents work through that with me, as well as, like I had mentioned, the public health nurse, those supports as well were major in helping me get through a lot of that stuff. And then even upon meeting Ryan and Rosalee, the support from them as well was incredible and very much needed. And yeah, just I have a strong family foundation, which really helped with getting through a lot of that. So yeah, that was probably my biggest support, I'd say.
I think my hopes were just that we would have a healthy relationship with the birth family, that it would feel really natural. I think some of my fears were that, I think just more like as the child that we adopted got older, that we would just be able to have good understanding of times of when we maybe needed to possibly pull back, like knowing that there was probably going to be times where we need to be a little more distant and times that we need to be a little bit more closer, just kind of based on where our child was at and what they were needing that time. So I think just hoping for just an understanding birth family, that we would be able to find that healthy balance of what was needed for both families.
When you're in the mix of the emotions of going through the process of adoption, obviously the biggest thing that mattered to me is my daughter's going to be safe, loved, and cared for. Also a big thing for me was I wanted an open adoption right off the get-go. I knew I wouldn't have the heart to do a closed adoption and, have this child and just never see them again. I wanted to be able to watch them grow and know that they were safe and they were cared and they were loved for. So that was a big thing for me. And then even going through the profiles, like a big thing, one of my preferences was, to have a family that had a similar background as me, an upbringing and whatnot. So the fact that Ryan and Rosalee, a guy grew up on a farm, we're farmers. So the fact that they were farmers and as well they were Christian was really important to me as well. So yeah, when going through the profiles, that was definitely something I was kind of looking through. The fact that they had kids too was a big win for me too, knowing that she was going to have siblings. So that's probably some of the stuff that kind of was most important to me when going through this process.
The open adoption has impacted our family in a really positive way. We find it so easy to get along with Sadie and her family. Our kids love their kids. They enjoy playing together. And I think we've just seen the support that's come out of it. Sadie has always been so supportive of Eve, and even in her health journey, we've just seen love and care and helping out in whatever way they can. We love how our families have just been able to kind of meld together and feel joy to be together. And so it hasn't been a burden, it hasn't been a struggle, it's just been a lot of love and support.
It means everything. The fact that I can just, call and check in and see how she's doing. If I'm going to be honest, I really struggled mentally after the adoption. You try and mentally prepare yourself for something like that, but I don't think anything can quite prepare you for that first feeling of leaving the hospital after giving birth to a baby and carrying a baby for 9 months and not having them in your arms. So that was really hard for me. So to help me get through that and being able to see their pictures of them with her meant so much to me. And you know what? And our adoption journey, I think, is a little unique compared to others, obviously, given Eve's circumstances. So even for them to be able to give me updates on her health and whatnot too, and even when it came time to her getting her Rhett's diagnosis, being able to go get genetic testing myself on their behalf to see if we can, further divulge in this and figure out and get more answers, I think really helped as well too. There's benefits to both sides, right? I get to know my daughter, my daughter gets to know me, especially even now with my oldest daughter. For her to still be able to have a relationship with her sister was probably one of the biggest things for me. And I didn't want to leave any questions for any of them, for my oldest daughter or for Eve, why this happened or what happened, and to have that relationship with Eve's family. In all honesty, Ryan, Rosalee, and their family feel like family to me now. I'm so happy I chose an open adoption and that we went that route, because I couldn't imagine not knowing what her life ended up like.
Adoption really is very sacrificial. It's very personal, and it's not an easy decision. We've really seen the wrestle that they've had to walk through in it, and how it continues to be challenging, but that it can be done well, and that it can be done in a really healthy way, and that it doesn't have to be the end of a relationship with birth mom and baby. It can really continue on and just be a different relationship. It may not be a parenting relationship, but it can still be a really good and really loving relationship.
On the same part of what I said, like to be able to come here and visit with them and meet up with them and hang out with their family and with Eve and their children. My children absolutely love coming here. And just getting to have that relationship with them means so much to me. Like I said, they're family. So
I think that honoring Eve's story looks like trying to give her the best life we can to try and fulfill what her birth mom had for her hopes and her dreams for her. But I also think it goes forward into carrying on into who she is now. And with her diagnosis of Rett syndrome, just being able to advocate for her, to love her, to give her every opportunity that we possibly can, and just keep her moving forward and loving her exactly how she is, and just knowing that she's who she's supposed to be, and just giving her full acceptance in that. And she's so easy to love, so that doesn't make it hard.
that it's okay, and it doesn't mean that you don't love your child. I feel like I've received a lot of judgment and kickback, and that I think makes it really hard in making the decision of adoption as well too. You know, you have so many worries because at the end of the day, I still love her very much, and wanting the best life possible for them. And this is a way of doing it. I didn't give her up for adoption and place her in the loving arms of Ryan and Rosalee because I didn't love her. It was because of how much I loved her. And I wanted her to have the best life possible. And I knew I couldn't provide that. And you know what, like I said, I have received a lot of judgment along the way, and it used to really bug me. And like some of that judgment, again, might be unique to our situation, given the fact that Eve now has a Rett syndrome or has her diagnosis of it. I've definitely have received kickback about that as well as, oh, that's why you gave your child up for adoption. There's something wrong for her. I've actually had someone say that to me. But at the end of the day, everyone's going to have opinions about adoption and their thoughts around adoption. But do you know what? It doesn't make you less of a person to make that decision that, do you know what, to say, I don't think I can do this, and to decide to choose adoption. I feel like that's the most selfless thing I feel like you can do. And you know what? It's like I said, everyone's going to have their opinions. And I've just, in a way, I've kind of learned to just let it roll off because you know what? I know my truth. I know my story. My daughter is living an incredible life with her parents and her family. And you know what? Like I said, I still get to have a relationship with her. And I'm not going to lie and say that adoption is easy. I have definitely had some very low points. It definitely was a struggle after Eve was born, even with all the hormones still surging through your body, your body physically, you just gave birth to a child and your body's like, where is this baby? It's hard. It's not an easy thing to do. To anyone who's considering adoption, my heart goes out to you. And you know what? You made that decision out of love. So what anybody else has to say doesn't matter.
So in our home, when we talk about Eve's birth family, we always try and be really positive and supportive. And there are a lot of questions around, especially with siblings, trying to have the understanding of how is Eve my sister, but she's also Addie's sister. And so there's just lots of processing around that and having lots of open conversations with the kids about how you are her family day to day, but she also has this past of the family that she came from, her family of origin as well. And so we just want to honor her birth family in how we speak about them, and also affirming our kids that she is also very much their sibling, and that they love and care for her on the day-to-day, but reminding them that her birth family also loves and cares for her as well. So I think for us, open adoption has meant kind of merging our two families, and spending time together as much as we can. The great thing is it's so easy to love Sadie and her family. We, as she kind of mentioned, we have similar backgrounds, similar lifestyles, and right from the very beginning, it never felt like an awkward moment. Like, it was so easy to chat. Yeah. It's still so easy to chat. I think it's grown into more of just like a genuine friendship, rather than something that feels awkward or just not natural. Like, it feels very natural for us. Yeah. And so we're just so thankful for that it feels easy. It doesn't feel hard to love them. And people ask me that often. They say like, oh, is that just so hard having to have an open adoption? And I'm just always like, no, like, we actually really enjoy spending time with them. Yeah. So.
Like, I don't know, this is what it made me think of too. I know when we first met each other, there was so many questions about what our open adoption would look like. I know there's a lot of different ways to go about having an open adoption, or, you have that worry of, maybe for me, like them for me is, oh, is she going to be camped out in our backyard trying to see your kid all the time and whatnot? But no, it's just, it's being able to have that relationship with them. And it just feels natural. They, like I said, they feel like family, and it's good.
So our two families connected through a Whag adoption agency. My husband and I had gone through the process of getting a profile ready and doing all of our checks. And then Sadie had as well come to the agency when she found out she was pregnant. And then we connected through Sadie choosing our file. For me, what surprised me most is kind of what I just said. I think just how easy it was. Yeah. I think when you go into it, there's often just like a question of will this feel like an inconvenience? Will this feel difficult? But I think even right from the beginning, we were both really honest with each other about our expectations and our hopes, And Sadie's always been very respectful of our family and our time, and but also like she will also say like, I would love to get together. She will initiate as well. And so I think sometimes you can be a little bit worried about finding that healthy balance. And I think that just came a lot easier than I expected it to. And so I think that's kind of what surprised me the most.
Yeah, I think no matter what, like there was some navigating in the beginning and trying to like sort out, okay, what is this going to look like for us? But yeah, too, it definitely was surprising to me how easy it was and how it all worked out. And I always worried about there being this awkwardness of like, okay, we're gonna go visit, but it doesn't feel like that at all. Like I said, my kids get so psyched when they get to come here and they get a visit and they get to see Eve, and even seeing Riley and Lacey and stuff too. It's it's been good. Some of this, like, again, might be unique to our situation, but having an open adoption has allowed, like I said, us to continue to have a relationship. I can get to see her grow up and see the beautiful life that she is having. My children get to have a relationship with her as well, especially as my oldest gets older. Obviously, she was, I think, just around a year old when Eve was born, and I kind of figured at some point we'd start having some questions from her about why her, why me, like why are we being separated like this. But to have an open adoption and be able to even just call them up and say hi or talk to them and see pictures, or even something as simple for my daughter who's kind of going through her own processing of all of this, especially recently, to be able to call them up and for Addie to read Eve bedtime stories and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So that's been very important to me. It's again too with Eve on her health journey, instead of them being left in the dark and not knowing anything about her birth mom, being able to call me up and be like, okay, so what's your family history on this and this and this, just being able to have those answers. And I guess in any, I don't want to say normal, but any other situation of an open adoption, just for that child to also have a relationship with their birth mom and be able to ask questions and know where they came from. Eve may not be able to that extent, kind of have that relationship with me, but for me to especially have that relationship with her and my children have that relationship with her, it means a lot to me.
So I think for us, openness has just added more love for Eve, more family for Eve.
Oh yeah.
Again, for us, just another friendship, another relationship in our lives that's fulfilling and life-giving.
Well, I think that's a big one, what you said though, like more family, like why wouldn't you want like more people to love your child and cheering them on and wanting the best for them, which I think is awesome. So
yeah, I guess I think like family is not just those who are placed in your home biologically.
Yeah,
family is whoever you choose to bring into your circle and love and care for.
Yeah, I agree with Rosalee on that one. Family's not just blood by any means. It's who you choose to love and who loves you. And it's just, you know what? You can have as big as a family as you want, in my opinion.
The more the merrier.
Yeah, the more the merrier, right? A birth mom perspective, that it's okay. It doesn't mean that I love my child any less. That it doesn't make you less of a mom. And that... like I said, it's an act of love. It was trying to do what's absolutely best for them.
I think for us, just it can be a wonderfully challenging road.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, it's not always easy. It's not always simple. It's not always straightforward. Mm-hmm. I think from the perspective of of an adoptive parent, you have your reasons for why you're going into it. And it's going to challenge you and it's going to stretch you and it's going to grow you. But remembering why you stepped into it in the first place will keep you going. And I think that if it's something you've been called to, it's something that the Lord will provide to get you through as well.
Adoption is a challenging road,
but it's a road worth walking.